Hello everybody, how are you doing? So I'm doing like a part 2 of the video that I just did a while ago. Okay, so what was I speaking about? I was in the book of 2 Samuel verses anywhere from 13 to 15, okay? And I'm speaking about a young man, his name is Absalom, okay? And so at the beginning of the video I did previously, there was an issue in between Amnon and Tamar, okay? So Amnon is a son of King David. Absalom is a son of King David. Absalom has a sister named Tamar. Tamar and Amnon may not be related, okay? But Amnon wronged Tamar, and then Absalom was trying to get revenge. So in my previous video, I mentioned it would have been one thing had Absalom prayed about the situation and allowed Yahweh to get vengeance. It would have been another thing if he had brought the issue up to his father, the king, okay? About the situation going on between his sister and his brother, okay? And they may not have been related. But instead of doing those things, Absalom took vengeance in his own hands. Absalom was a tricky fellow, okay? So as I read the story, I continue to see tricky ways with this Absalom, okay? Now, so he deceived his father and to get in his brother Amnon. Between the first incident between Amnon and Tamar, there was a 5-year period between the ending of these issues. So I'm talking about the ending of these issues. So it's about a 5-year period, okay? Between when Amnon and Tamar had an issue, okay? So Absalom dealt with Amnon in a wrong way. I don't know, it depends on how you look at it, okay? Absalom took revenge in his own hands instead of leaving it with Yahweh or with his father to deal with, or the court system or whatever. So Absalom kind of was tricky in how he dealt with Amnon. He fled to a city called Jeshur, and he was there for 3 years. I'm not sure if he was the one who tricked his father into allowing him to return back to Jerusalem, or if this was just Joab, the son of Zeruiah, okay, who perceived that King David was sad about Absalom leaving. Okay, King David did figure out what happened in between Amnon and Tamar, so maybe that's why King David got over his sorrow of losing Amnon, okay? So anyway, so I didn't get into details in the last video because I ran out of time on what actually happened. So there was more deceptions, not just what I listed on the previous video. So what's going on now? So now King David was kind of deceived into allowing Absalom to come back to Jerusalem. So Absalom was in Jerusalem for 2 years, I think. Let me make sure. He was in Jerusalem for 2 years. Now, King David said, okay, this woman from Tekoa kind of deceived the king into, now deception is not the right thing. If we lie, it's an abomination to the Creator. He doesn't like it when we do that, okay? So I'm not telling you guys to do that. We're learning lessons of what not to do by seeing what people in the past have done wrong, okay? So anyway, so the king said, allow Absalom to return to his own house, but do not let him see my face. That's what King David said. So Absalom did return to his own house. But he was in Jerusalem for 2 years. He had children along that time. So Absalom wanted to see the king. He sent for Joab. Let me make sure so this Joab, son of Zeruiah, okay, the one who perceived that King David was sad without Absalom. So Absalom knows that this person was close to King David, his father. So he sent for this Joab, okay, and Joab, he wanted Joab to send him to King David, his father. But then Joab did not want to comply, okay? Because Joab knew that the king said, I don't want Absalom in my face, okay? It's kind of like King David had a righteous heart. He loved Yahweh. He kind of knew where his son was wrong. So I don't think he wanted to see his son, because if he saw his son, he would probably know that he had to discipline him in some way. And so the king said, I will allow him to come because you guys just deceived me, but that doesn't mean I want to see his face, because I don't want to have to deal with the issues that he dealt with incorrectly, okay? So what's going on is that Absalom, as I stated, was a crafty fellow, okay? And in order for us to understand that, we might have to trace back how he was conceived and the situation with his mother and his father, or trace back generations before that to figure out where is Absalom coming up with this deceptive, tricky behavior, which is why We don't want to create iniquity in our life because it passes down from generation to generation at times, okay? So anyway, so therefore Absalom sent for, so I'm at verse 29 of 2 Samuel 14, okay? So Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come near to him. So Joab wouldn't even come visit him. Like, because Joab already brought him into the king's presence for the king's sake, not for Absalom's sake, okay? So, and when he sent again the second time, Joab would not come. So verse 30, so he said to his servants, see, Joab's field is near mine. So I can't read it because, as I stated, Absalom is a tricky fellow. So Absalom concocted another plan. He already concocted a plan to deal with his brother. So it's probably his half-brother, okay? And we see how that didn't go so well. So now he's concocting another plan to get what he wants again. So I'm already seeing the character of Absalom and seeing it in a negative way. And so I don't want to use the word to describe what I'm seeing in his character just as yet. And I probably won't use it in this video, but I might explain it to you, okay? So anyway, so Absalom now again deceives someone again to get what he wants. Now this is very bad character. Now this woman from Tekoa, I don't know if it was Joab, because I think it was Joab. So Joab, the son of Zeruiah, he had tricky character too. So this is funny, because sometimes we perceive that in our modern day society, people behave badly. We don't look back in the past to see people behaved badly, even not really from the beginning of time, but since sin entered the earth, people have kind of been behaving badly. So Joab, the son of Zeruiah, I'm not sure if gaslighting is the right word. A little bit, they kind of tricked King David into allowing his son to come back, because his son technically had killed someone, and that's kind of against the biblical law. And King David was a righteous man for the most part, maybe not 100%, but King David kind of didn't get to speak on the issue because Absalom kept fleeing, okay? So the issue now, see, Absalom, I don't want to go into, I'm going to go, okay, let's see. So, hold on one second, I'm trying to explain to you. Okay, it's 2 Samuel 14:25. Now in Israel there was no one who was as praised as much as Absalom for his good looks. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him, okay? Okay, I'm just going to read a little bit more. And when he cut the hair of his head at the end of every year, he cut it because it was heavy on him. So that doesn't mean people have to cut their hair every year if you're a guy. Okay, it's just that his hair was heavy. So I'm not sure if he had his hair in like dreads or something like that. So when he cut it, he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels according to the king's standard. So he was handsome. He had a lot of hair. And so when I had read this part, this is what kind of triggered the message for me. Because when I saw that he was a handsome guy, I was like, I know something else is coming. Like, I would love to see a handsome guy with good character. But when I saw us say this, it's like, I'm sorry, guys. Now, in all of Israel, there was no one who was as praised as much as Absalom. Okay? So if people are praising him for his good looks, he might have a big ego. That's what I thought at first. And then it says, from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him. Okay? So, I mean, he has all this good stuff. It could be good luck working in his favor. But why does he have to mess it up with the bad behavior? You know? So, there are two types of people. There are people with good luck, and there are people with, like, good character. Blessed are you if you have both. Okay? So, I'm sorry. When I saw this, I kind of knew there was more to the story. So I just felt like he had a big ego because he was very handsome and praised. So he uses this big ego to his benefit, okay? So he deceived Joab into coming near to him because Joab wouldn't deal with him. Joab knew his character. Joab knew that he had did as much as he could for Absalom, because it wasn't even for Absalom's sake, it was for King David's sake, to make King David not so sad. So anyway, he ended up coaxing Joab into his presence, okay, and so he did it by deception. Not only did he do it by deception, he keeps using his servants to wrong people to get his way, okay? Those are things we don't need to do, okay? So now in verse 32, and Absalom answered Joab, look, I sent to you saying, come here so that I may send you to the king, to say, Why have I come from Jeshurun? It would be better for me to be there still. Now therefore, let me see the king's face. But if there is any iniquity in him, who is Absalom, then let the king deal with him in a not so nice way to get rid of him if there was any iniquity in Absalom. But we already know Absalom has been very naughty, he's been deceptive, and he's been dealing with issues on his own. And so anyway, so let me see. So verse 33, so Joab went to the king and told him, and when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king. Then the king kissed Absalom, okay? So the king has not seen his son for at least 3 years, okay? Because he fled away to Jeshurun for 3 years, but when he was in Jerusalem, he hadn't seen him for the 2 years. So the king hadn't seen Absalom in maybe 5 years. And let me see something. It could be possible that he hadn't seen him for a longer period of time than that, but at least 5 years that King David hadn't seen his son Absalom. His heart was sad for him. So even though his son had done wrong, the king, I don't know if because the time had passed, he had forgiven him, or because of so much trickery surrounding this young man named Absalom. I don't know what's the deal, or I don't know if luck is just favoring him. I don't very much know, okay? So now Absalom is in the king's good graces to a certain degree. At least he's not getting, disciplined for what he did. Okay, so in chapter 15, so this young man, King David's son, King David loved the Creator with all of his heart, right? And so the Creator longs for servants, for kings who are decent people, who want to do the right thing. But sometimes when you have a good heart, you have to make sure that your children, I don't know if you have to pray for your children, teach them the right way, whatever the case may be. Watch them if they're doing naughty things and discipline them early, because right now his son is not doing the right thing, and it goes even further than that, okay? So, let me see. So I'm going to tell you the story because my video will shut off after a couple minutes. Let me tell you the story. So what is going on here is that I'm at chapter 15, 2 Samuel, verse 2. Now Absalom would rise early and stand beside the way to the gate. So it was whenever anyone who had a lawsuit came to the king for a decision, that Absalom would call to him and say, "What city are you from?" And he would say, "Your servant is from such and such a tribe of Israel." Then Absalom would say to him, "Look, your case is good and right, but there is no deputy of the king to hear you." Moreover, Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were made judge in the land, and everyone who has any suit or cause will come to me, then I will give him justice." So Absalom is acting like he's acting like he's a deputy or something, like a greeter in the courthouse to the men or to the people who come to the court. And so, let me keep reading. And so it was whenever anyone came near to him to bow down to him, that he would put out his hand and take him and kiss him. In this manner, Absalom acted toward all of Israel who came to the king for judgment, okay? So what's going on here is that Absalom is acting as an appointed official, although he is not, in the, I don't know if this is the courthouse, in the place of legal justice for King David. So his face is being seen by the people who are going into the courts, okay? So he's getting some type of merit, some type of social knowledge, like people are aware of who he is, and he's acting as if he's a good person in this regard and acting like he is about justice, okay? So he's a very good actor, okay? He's very deceptive, he's handsome, and like he's winning people over by his tricky ways, okay? So I'm sorry if it seems like I'm kind of fussing a lot, but that's because when I just read this, it kind of made me a little bit sad, so I guess I'm kind of lecturing a little bit. So anyway, so I'm going to describe to you once more again. King David loves the Creator with all of his heart. He's raising this family. He's leading the kingdom as much in the right way as possible. He was not 100% perfect, okay? King David wasn't 100% perfect. So what is going on? And it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said to the king, "Please let me go to Hebron and pay the vow which I vowed to the Adonai." So what happened was that this has been many years that he's been greeting people in the courts. And so many years later, so Absalom asked, can he please go to Hebron to pay the vow which he vowed to the Adonai, okay? So King David is 40 years older, and Absalom his face has been socially recognized in the court as if he were a deputy or an official or something for many years. So his face is well known. So the king said to him in verse 9, go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. Then Absalom sent spies throughout all of the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom reigns in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men from Jerusalem who were invited, and they went along innocently and did not know anything. Then Absalom sent for Ahithophel, I'm sorry I said it wrong, Ahithophel the Gileonite, David's counselor from his city, namely from Gilo, while he offered sacrifices, and the conspiracy grew strong, for the people with Absalom continually increased in number. Okay? So I'm going to keep reading. And a messenger came to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are with Absalom. Okay? So David said to all of his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, arise, let us flee, or else we shall not escape from Absalom. Make haste to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring disaster upon us. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of it. So verse 15, and the king's servants said to the king, we are your servants, ready to do whatever the Lord the king commands. Then the king went out with all his household after him. But the king left 10 women concubines to keep the house. Okay? So, the point of my story so far is, are we disciplining our young people? Okay? Because this is King David. When King David was young, he was out there keeping the sheep. And so he knew the ways of the Creator. He's the son of Jesse. He was maybe raised in the right way. King David kind of kept himself. He kept the sheep and he walked in the right way. When it came to his sons, 2 of his sons went off. Amnon went off because Amnon was listening to a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemiah. So that's where Amnon went wrong, to wrong Tamar. Okay? Absalom went wrong somewhere early down the line, and it could be because of his good looks. I'm not sure. But King David was maybe a busy man, and because of that, I don't know what happened in his household, but we need to kind of watch our young people, because we don't want our young people to behave treacherously toward us. That's what my story here is about. And let's pray really quickly for the young people. I hope my video hasn't shut off yet. Righteous Creator, Spirit, Erevat, Creator, Father, please help the young people of earth to behave in a righteous way. Please help us as parents who are raising up our children. Help us to teach the children in the right way that they should go, so that they should not turn from the left or to the right, but they should walk in your ways. Therefore, they will not in the future behave treacherously, not only toward you, Creator, but toward their parents or toward other people who depend on them to behave righteously. Please help us to teach our young people the right way to behave. Okay? So guys, I hope that this video helped you to get understanding of what could be going on in your household. I pray and I hope that things are well with you and your family. My video is just about to cut off. Thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Okay, thanks. Bye.